Welcome to Power Machines N6. This video is going to be about internal combustion engines. But before I begin, I just want to thank you for watching the video and to all those who have shown appreciation, because I receive a lot of thanks messages from different students. I just want to say that I take that very seriously. It's very encouraging, and I am happy to see that my work is really making a meaningful change in the lives of so many people. So thank you so much. Let's begin. Let's start by looking at the operations that happen inside of an internal combustion engine. So in most internal combustion engines, what you will find is that you have some sort of arrangement that consists of a number of cylinders with pistons that move inside of them. And this is more or less what you will be looking at. And so right at the bottom here we have the crankshaft, although I did not label it, but what you see here is the crankshaft. And then here what you have is the piston rod, okay? And then this cylindrical thing that looks like a drum that moves inside of the cylinder, up and down or back and forth, depending on how you look at it. This is what we refer to as the piston, okay? And then, of course, the casing inside of which the piston is moving up and down is referred to as the cylinder, okay? So inside of the cylinder, you have the piston moving up and down or back and forth. And of course, here you are also shown the piston rings, but this is not really important to us, at least as far as this chapter is concerned, okay? And then you also have the inlet valve. This is the valve through which air, or sometimes a mixture of air and fuel, comes inside of the cylinder. And then you have the outlet valve on this side, through which the exhaust gases are expelled out of the cylinder. And for this particular cylinder, you see that we have a spark plug. It's important at this stage for me to say that not all cylinders have spark plug. It's when you're dealing with a petrol engine that you will have a spark plug on top of the cylinder. But if it is a diesel engine, you may not see a spark plug, okay? And so, as far as the motion of the piston is concerned, the lowest position that the piston can reach inside of the cylinder is referred to as the bottom dead center, BDC. And the topmost position that the piston can reach is referred to as the top dead center. And so when I say the bottom position that the piston can reach, what do I mean? Well, what I mean is that the top surface of the piston, here where you see my marker, okay, the lowest position that the top surface of the piston can reach, that is what we refer to as the bottom dead center. And the highest position that the top surface of the piston, the top surface of the piston, the highest position that the top surface of the piston can reach is the top dead center, okay? The lowest position that the top surface of the piston can reach is the bottom dead center. And so the distance between the bottom dead center and the top dead center, this is what we refer to as the stroke length. And so when we want, for instance, to find the stroke volume or the swept volume, that is the volume that the piston pushes as it moves through one stroke length, okay? Really, really important. Now, let us look at the functioning of an IC engine. Of course, as the piston is moving, the valves are opening and closing. So what exactly happens? I am going to break it to you so that you understand easily. So the first phase that we have is referred to as the suction phase. In other words, the mixture of fuel and air, or air only in the case of a diesel engine, okay? That mixture is sucked inside of the cylinder. So what will happen during the suction phase is that the inlet valve is going to be open, okay? And then the piston is going to move down. And as the piston moves down, it will cause the mixture of air and fuel, if you have a petrol engine, or of air only, it will cause it to come inside of the cylinder. You can think of a syringe. When you have a syringe and you pull it, you will see that it causes whatever it is that you're trying to draw inside of it to come inside, okay? So the piston behaves in a similar manner. So during the suction phase, the inlet valve is going to be opened, and then the piston is going to move down, and as it does, a mixture of air and fuel is going to be sucked inside of the cylinder as the piston is moving down. Okay, and again, it's a mixture of air and fuel if you're dealing with a petrol engine, but if it is a diesel engine, it's air only that comes inside during the suction phase. And then after the suction phase, the next one is the compression phase. So after suction, the piston is now at the bottom, okay, it has moved down, okay, and the mixture of air and fuel, or of air only if it's a diesel engine, has been sucked inside of the cylinder, right? And now at that moment, the inlet valve closes. And when the inlet valve is closed, then the piston again begins to move up inside of the cylinder. And as it is moving up, because the mixture of air and fuel, or maybe if it's a diesel engine, the air that is inside of the cylinder begins to be compressed because it is trapped inside of the cylinder and the piston is moving up. So whatever it is that is inside of the cylinder begins to be compressed, and that is the compression phase. Now, when you're dealing with a diesel engine, remember with a diesel engine, initially it was just air that came inside of the cylinder during the suction phase. Now, during the compression phase, fuel is then injected inside of the cylinder. Okay, but when you're dealing with a petrol engine, what happens is already a mixture of air and fuel that comes in during the suction phase. Okay, very important. And then after the compression phase, then you have the ignition that takes place. Now, when you're dealing with a petrol engine, that ignition takes place by means of a spark plug. So it's called a spark plug for a reason. It's because it releases a spark. Now you need to imagine, try and imagine this. You have already air and fuel that is mixed together and it has been compressed. And because it has been compressed, it is now at a higher temperature and at a higher pressure. What will happen if you ignite it? Of course, an explosion will take place inside of the cylinder. So that is the ignition phase, okay? So ignition takes place inside of the cylinder. Now, when you have a diesel engine, of course, you do not have a spark plug, but that ignition will take place nonetheless, because remember, for a diesel engine, during the compression phase, fuel is then injected inside of the cylinder, and then as compression takes place, eventually temperatures reach a very high level to the point of then igniting the mixture that is inside of the cylinder. Okay, so that is what happens during the ignition phase. And then after the ignition phase, you now have the combustion phase. So what is happening? Because a spark has been lit, and then now you have some sort of explosion inside of the cylinder. Now that causes the mixture of air and fuel to begin to combust, and it is burning now. Okay, and when that is happening, you also have expansion, because you can imagine when you just had an explosion inside of the cylinder, that will force the piston to begin to move down. So then you have expansion of the gas that is inside of the cylinder. And after the combustion phase, of course, the piston will move down, and then after moving down, you expect it again to begin to come up. And so after the combustion phase is the exhaust phase. So when the piston will now begin to come up, the outlet valve is going to open, and the mixture that has just gone through combustion is now going to be expelled through the outlet valve as exhaust gas. And so that is the exhaust phase, okay? And so it's really important to understand that. That will give you a good idea of how an internal combustion engine works. Now, let us look at the equations that are important as far as ICE is concerned. The first one is the indicated power. And so what is the equation for indicated power?